Hello, everyone. Hello, Professor. Today, we'll be talking about the impact of physical activity on academic success in STEM fields. This is our 3301 term project. My name is David Duran, and my teammates are Brandon Vega and Jonathan Bolivar. So, the idea. We chose the study because we think that the gym is an essential part of people's well-being and could help with the studying in STEM fields. Other research has shown to enhance academic outcomes, mental clarity, and emotional stability. The descriptions we used for this project were the GPA, major, age, gender, time exercising, time working in the STEM field, and many more. Usually this question is used at the end of the presentation or asked at the end of the presentation, but we're going to go ahead and answer it right now. If our hypotheses are proven true, people will feel more encouraged to go to the gym while studying in their respective fields. It's important to share this information because it speaks from experience rather than numbers and calculations. So the data collection. How we collected the data was quite simple and easy. We made a survey using Google Forms and shared it in a QR code on our phones so that people can just scan it and fill out the survey. We received a total of 60 responses, and they were all students in the STEM fields. And the survey had 12 questions, mostly about their academics, GPA, study habits, gym routine, and how often they work out, and a little bit more. The idea was to see if there was any link between staying physically active and doing well in school/work, especially in demanding STEM areas such as engineering. We made sure that the questions were clear and straightforward so people could answer honestly and quickly without overthinking. Many yes and no questions and a little bit of check the boxes. Instead of getting our information from just UTA, we decided to expand and ask students in other universities and have them fill out the survey so that we can have a more variety instead of just having students answer it from UTA where it's pretty simple and straightforward. So this is my survey analysis. My hypothesis is that if STEM students attend the gym more often rather than studying in their respective fields, they are more likely to experience lower academic success. How I see this is students who are lazy and don't work out and spend more majority of their time studying are more likely to have higher success than others who do go working out and don't spend their time studying. So I see this as a negative linear graph where students on top are more likely to succeed but have no working out time, where students at the bottom with no academic success have a lot of working out time. And so here is my survey results. So in group one, I decided to go with GPA versus time in the gym versus time in the STEM field. And throughout all the graphs, the GPA is a given from male and female. So in group one, graph one, the GPA is given to show that the time spent in the gym. Students mostly work out in the 60 to 30-minute range and the 60 to 80-minute range, which is the average workout time of an average person, male and female. It shows people have some time to work out and still have managed to have high GPAs. In group one, graph two, looking at the time spent studying in STEM per week, majority of students said they study around 5 to 10 hours and 10 to 20 hour per week range. This shows students have enough time to work out and have the time to study for classes. The average GPA of UTA was 3.2, but the average GPA of many people is 3.5. The average time spent in the gym was 30 to 60-minute range, and the average time in STEM was the 5 to 10 hour range. And so now we look at the next set of graphs, which is group two, the GPA versus physical engagements. And so in the first graph, it shows the level of physical activity changed due to academic responsibilities. The majority of people aren't going to the gym as often because of the amount of schoolwork. Responses were yes, decreased slightly, and yes, decreased significantly, which says people prefer to work out more, but due to school activities, it gets in the way. Graph 2, on the other hand, contradicts the previous information by showing majority go to the gym often and regularly. It shows that those who go to the gym have a higher chance of academic success. And the average time of physical engagement was 3.5 times per week, which is the occasionally regular area. And we had our expected value of the GPA to be 3.5, and our standard deviation and sample standard deviation will soon come in the following report. Now I pass over the spotlight to Brandon and his survey analysis.
Hello everyone. So for my hypothesis, I wanted to see if there was actually a difference in academic performance based on gym attendance frequency. I believe that there's a sweet spot, like if you didn't go too much or too little, you would have a better grade. You would have a better GPA. But my alternative is that students who go to the gym moderately perform better academically than those who go too often. So I would have to fail my test to prove my point. So I would so I grouped up people's responses and at the table. So often is almost every day, regularly 3 times per week, occasionally is 5 times per month, and rarely is 1 to 2 times per month, and then never. I also grouped those by the GPA 4, 3.9, and then all the way up to below 2.5, as you can see all the way on the right. So now I use the cheese square test to see whether there is actually a relationship between these two things, or whether any patterns we see are just random. So here's what the test told me. The numbers showed that students who go to the gym regularly, not too often, not too little, were more likely to be in the higher GPA ranges, like 4.0 or 3.5 or 3.9. It really fits into my idea that there's like a just right zone or a sweet spot, like enough gym time to help with energy and focus, but not so much that cuts into your study time. On the other side, people who went to the gym a lot, like an often category, or those who never went at all, didn't show as many high GPAs. The never group especially stood out. Nobody in that group had a GPA over 2.4. That really shows that kind of shows my point that people who don't go a lot would have lower GPAs. Now, from the statistical standpoint, the results almost reached the significance level, but the p-value was about 0.093, and we actually needed to be under 0.05 for me to fail the test to prove my point. So from a statistical standpoint, the results didn't quite reach the what I needed. So so I can't say that the data we collected shows that there's a actual link between going to the gym and academic performance. But even so, the pattern in the data is hard to ignore. Students who hit that middle ground, not skipping the gym, but not doing it, but not overdoing it either, consistently shows stronger academic performance. So this suggests that there might be something valuable in having a balanced routine, like having regular physical activity. But unfortunately, with the statisticals from the sample we gathered and from the test, there's no, I cannot say for certain that there's a correlation with these two things. So I believe I would have to get more samples, like a lot, survey a lot more people, and also just probably like a broader sample of people like from different colleges and such. And now off to Jonathan and his hypothesis.
My name is Jonathan. Now we're going over my survey analysis. And to start off, my hypothesis is I believe that there is a correlation between academic performance and time spent exercising in the gym. We will see from our gathered data that as more time is spent in the gym when looking from a monthly basis, there will also be an increase in GPA. Now we need to follow some basic methodology. We need to be able to compare how does physical activity increase or decrease with GPA and each individual response. With this idea, we can make two groups. A group that does physical activity sessions approximately less than 12 times per month, and another group that does physical activity sessions approximately more than 12 sessions per month. Now, we're able to split up our entire data pool into two groups. A group that barely goes to the gym and see how their GPA rounds about, and then people who do go to the gym quite often and how their GPA rounds about. Now, because we have two groups, we can use a two sample mean test, especially since we don't have a population variance or any of that sort. So on the right, we can use these equations with the t-test and another variable that goes along within the equation, SP, and then degree of freedom. Now, before we start any calculations, we need a null and alternate hypothesis. The first null hypothesis is that there is no difference between people who do perform physical activity often and people who do perform physical activity often, that necessarily there is no effect from going to the gym or doing any type of physical activity, and that GPA is about the same all throughout. Now, the alternate is that people who do perform physical activity often tend to have a higher GPA than people who do not perform physical activity. Now, this is what aligns with my hypothesis, and that's necessarily what we're trying to test here. Now, before we do any more calculations again, we need to interpret the data in a specific way. For the sake of the calculations, the width of each section of GPA is taken as an average of, and GPA below 2.5 is simply assumed to be 2.0 so it doesn't round off and then skew much of the results. And as you can see in the bottom, we have just about every single female and male response categorized with how often they go to the gym, with never, rarely, occasionally, regular, and often. Now, the reason why we did this is because it's just for the sake of survey responses, and we don't want people to feel pressured into putting their exact GPA and it's something very quick. So we can make these assumptions just for the sake of calculation. These are the calculations here, finding the SP variable, plugging it into the T function, and we get a negative 0.9599 and a degree of freedom of 68. With this information, we can assume just in between 60 and 80 degree of freedom, especially since the numbers are quite close to each other. And when we look in between 60 to 70 confidence level, that is about where our T data rounds off to. On the right, on the graph at the bottom, you can see a 60% confidence level, which means we're able to reject anything that has a less than 60% or about 65% confidence level. Anything above a 70% confidence level we cannot do. And it simply means that both of the groups have about the same GPA. After analyzing the results, we can overall say that there is some evidence showing my hypothesis is sound in some sense, especially since there are some data points that do have people who do go to the gym quite often. They have a quite high GPA, but we cannot specifically look at this. We have to test the entire data set. And with this, we can see that we failed to reject the null hypothesis that the confidence level is greater than 65%. But we reject the null hypothesis when the confidence level is less than 65%. This means that the evidence is too weak to prove my hypothesis correct. Typically, statistically reliable studies have at least a 90% confidence level, meaning there isn't much overwhelming evidence that there is a higher GPA average for people who do go to the gym or perform any type of physical activity often.
When we looked at all three of our results together for our hypothesis, what really stood out was that none of us could prove that working out has actual real impact on academic performance. Each of us came in with different ideas, like whether working out helps grades or whether people who don't go to the gym might still succeed. But in the end, the numbers just didn't support those ideas in a statistical, strong way. In my case, I saw a pattern that seemed to suggest students who went to the gym moderately had higher GPAs. But when I ran the statistical test, the result wasn't strong enough to confirm that relationship. One of my group members had similar issues. Their significance level was more relaxed with a 65%. But they still couldn't reject or they couldn't accept their hypothesis. And another group member found that people with high GPAs were on both sides. Some worked out and some didn't. So the data didn't show a clear connection either. So overall, even though we all noticed certain trends from the table and graphs, the evidence just wasn't strong enough to say that going to the gym or how often you go really affects your academic performance in any reliable way.
As we may conclude now, the data is not convincing enough that there is some positive correlation between performing physical activity and academic performance in STEM. All three members' analysis concluded either no correlation or not enough information to be statistically reliable. Our intended audience, no matter the outcome, would be students looking to increase their GPA through physical activity, and also parents of those students who are looking for an academic performance increase in their own kids. Now, as we can finally make our statement, there is no effect of physical activity onto a student's GPA, positive or negative. All of our data is from our own survey, and our calculations are done on our own. Thank you.